Hi, my name is Gerhard Gschwandtner and welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Dave Kurlan. He's the author of Baseline Selling. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Gerhard. It's great to be here again. Really enjoy my time with you.
Why don't we go back and forth and talk about the changes we have seen, and then we talk about how to adapt. The first change is obviously that everything is moving online. How should salespeople adapt?
Where transactions have gone online, it's basically transactional selling. A salesperson isn't needed for the transactions. They're obsolete for handling transactions. But
Right.
at a higher level, I believe that there are companies that make those transactions. They're obsolete from the transaction, but they're not obsolete from the concept of going out and acquiring new accounts.
The second trend is that you wrote about this in your LinkedIn blog post, which I really loved, that buyer self-educates. How do we extend the buying journey instead of finding better ways to sell what we have and educate buyers?
I agree that if it's a traditional product or a traditional service and a company already knows they're going to buy it, it's not something new. It's just a question of who they're going to get it from. Then by the time a salesperson is in the conversation, they're pretty far down the line,
Right.
Whatever the percentage is. So the key then is the strategy of how to extend the buying process, as you just said, and the tactics required to back up without a prospect realizing that they've backed up, so that they can collect the compelling reasons to buy and find out why we're in this situation to begin with,
Right.
so that in this why buy from me sale, we can figure out why they might buy from me.
Well, I think the shift that needs to happen in salespeople's minds is you're no longer the provider of information, because the majority of that information those provisional supplies are all online. But where the salesperson can make a difference is to share insights that help the customer translate those insights into value for their situation.
I agree. And if we take something as simple and as popular as copiers, the big copiers that everybody has now that does the work of the copying store.
Right.
A salesperson can literally say the machines are all essentially the same, and the prices are all essentially the same, and the quality is all essentially the same, and the features are all essentially the same. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about why you might choose to do business with us,
Right,
instead of with somebody else. And the conversation needs to change.
So let's talk about the conversation, because that brings up another idea that I have in the back of my mind. I feel and I sense that thought leadership is fading, and it's going to be replaced with conversation leadership, and asking the right questions and bringing the right people into the conversation is more critical than standing on a pulpit and pitching.
Yeah, I like your coining of the phrase conversation leadership, because when you compare that to thought leadership, that's somebody who's capable of coming up with an idea. And in conversation leadership, now we're talking something more complex with more substance. It's got a little bit more sustainability. I like the change.
Yeah, and I think that brings me back to a term which I like, which is co-creation. That I think that buyer and seller, in the ideal scenario, they want to co-create the sale and make that relationship part pivotal to the future and extend it into the future.
Whether we use your term of co-creation or we're talking about collaboration, which is a word that prospects like to hear a lot now.
Right.
Salespeople who have embraced a consultative approach and can expertly listen and ask questions have a chance of being able to do co-creation.
Right.
And salespeople who are still stuck in the 20th century and are still presenting and dumping and talking about capabilities and value propositions don't stand a chance of being able to participate in a conversation like this and co-creating and collaborating, and they're going to get killed. They're going to get left behind.
Absolutely. So let's add one more. You have a list in your LinkedIn blog that was like about 20 items long. When you think back, what was the one that really inspired you to write that post?
Honestly, there was just I was talking with somebody internally, and we were talking about all the things that have changed. We were talking about it from the good standpoint. Look at all this great technology that we can use now, and look at how efficient we can be, and look at how much more effective we can be. And even though the rules of selling has changed and the concepts in selling have changed, in the end, it's all about how do we get that point where we can do business.
Right.
So,
right.
The steps have changed, and everything that we're using has changed, and the buyers have changed. And it just kind of had a stream of consciousness and just started listing them and went, holy shit, a lot more than I had actually thought. Look how much your business has changed.
Yes, yeah.
There's no resemblance to what Selling Power started out as when it was a small newspaper back in the 80s.
Right.
Yes, I remember that.
Right. And that brings me to the key insight that what has not changed is that people want more insight. But what has changed is the delivery mechanism. And we need to realize that the challenge, the biggest challenge, is always to translate what are you delivering to the customer in a package, in a story, with grabbers, with attention grabbers, with engagement statements, or with hooks. So we need to think more closely about how do we engage the customer, not just on an intellectual level, but also on a visceral level, where they say, tell me more, I want to learn about this.
There's a fairly large group of sales leaders, in my opinion, that are do-it-yourselfers. They don't want to go and get outside help, and they certainly don't want to pay for it. They're huge egos. They don't want to admit that they might need some help, and they may not know that they need any help.
Right.
And then there's the know-it-alls. And all this free or low-cost subscription help that you can provide and that we can provide is perfect for that audience, because they're not going to engage and pay any fees for expert outside advice. But if they can read our thoughts and our articles and watch our videos in the privacy of their own home, on their laptop, on their mobile device, then they're getting their needs met too.
Right.
And we'll continue to work with the small percentage of folks who actually don't want to reinvent the wheel and want to accept best practices. And I wrote an article about this earlier today. It's the difference between taking the cruise ship from New York City to London or taking a transcontinental jet.
Right.
You'll end up getting there, but you can get there a lot more quickly if you get the right help and integrate it the right way and do it the first time.
Right. I think that you and I have something in common, because we not only create ideas and share them liberally, either online or in videos, but we also have a chance to sort of spark that inner magic in people. So when they're colliding with some of our ideas, that they make the right turn and arrive across the Atlantic faster and safer.
Fast and safe. I'm all for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave.